Wellness Show. I'm Dr. Keisha Christian, your host. So glad that you tuned in for this episode. I'm excited about this episode because everyone can benefit from this episode. Whether you're youth or young at heart to whether you're older and have a lot of wisdom, we can all prevent an injury, or at least attempt to prevent an injury. So today's topic is on injury prevention. And we are all susceptible at some point in our life to an injury, whether it's as simple as a cut, a bruise, or a simple muscle pull, or what we call in medical terminology, a muscle strain, to something that can leave us more devastated in life and perhaps a change in life, such as fractures or concussion or brain injuries or other different types of injuries. So I want to make sure that you are prepared for activity. I want to make sure that you know how to prevent an injury if possible, as well as how you can take care of an injury that you may encounter. So unfortunately, medical science isn't as advanced as we'd like it to be in the arena of we can't predict what specific person will be prone to an injury. However, we can certainly generalize it and say, well, a certain population may be prone to certain injuries, or if you do these particular activities this particular way, then you may be prone to injury, or if you don't do these particular activities or motions, then you can be prone to injury, or you may prevent an injury. So we're going to talk about the whole spectrum today. We're going to get down into the fundamentals of preventing an injury. So I have treated a lot of people who have said to me, you know, I woke up this morning or one morning and I got ready and went out and started moving, helping move my house or helping a family member or friend move their furniture in their house. And in the middle of the day, I start to experience some pain somewhere in my body, or I felt an injury occur when I did this, when I went and picked up that heavy couch. Well, one of the things is that we always need to prepare our bodies for activities, right? Whether it's moving, whether it's doing yard work, whether it's engaging in a particular sport activity, whatever it is, our bodies are mechanical, but yet they need to be warmed up, prepared, and they typically function best on activities that they are used to. That's called memory, or muscle memory, or joint memory. If we actually do activities that it's not in sync for, it hasn't done activities in a long time, then it will forget on how to do that activity. I also remember when I had a client who, he was 50 years old, and he was actually a sprinter. He was a track star years prior, many years prior. And so he was showing his daughter's boyfriend how he used to sprint. So they actually got up one day and started racing. Well, inevitably, he actually strained his hamstring. It was a great pull, one of a severity of a pulled hamstring. And he thought that he could just treat it or walk it off and he'd be fine. But unfortunately, because he left that injury for a long time to try to mend itself, he developed more complications down the road. And eventually he needed my care to get him rehabilitated back to feeling good, being able to function, walk, to sit properly, to do the various activities that he would normally do every single day. Now, someone who was young that I treated also had the same type of injury. She was 16 years old in high school, and she was going to play with the guys. She was going to play football and did not prepare at all, didn't have any form of nutrients or any beverage like water or Gatorade or anything that provided her some electrolytes or fluid throughout her body. And she just got up and went that morning and played football. Well, she also ended up inevitably having a pulled hamstring. Now, one of the differences between the recovery period between the older gentleman that I shared and the younger girl that I shared was that the younger girl, that day that she had the injury, her mother called me that afternoon and said, my daughter has a lot of pain in her muscle behind her leg, and I want her to come and see you. So that afternoon, she came to see me, and I did some education as far as what not to do and what she needs to do also in taking care of that hamstring strain. And I saw her that day, and I saw her the next day. The next day, she was about 85 to 90% better, just because she came and saw me that afternoon that the injury took place, and we were able to get her on some restrictions in activity, on a good program, and she was able to follow through. As I mentioned, I shared with her that it's important to do these type of activities and exercises over the next 48 to 72 hours, and you will be doing well and not having much of any pain at all. And so she complied to that, and no problems. And again, it's because she sought medical attention as soon as when the injury took place. So that can be a benefit as well when you do have an injury, is to seek medical attention as soon as possible so that we can help you through getting recovered as well as fastly recovered as possible. So let's talk about how you can prevent an injury. So a few things. If you are going to do activities, it's always best to warm up. Do a little bit of warm up. Maybe walk around a little bit or move your arms and your legs a little bit so that it prepares for activity. Warming up the body, including the muscles, the joints, the ligaments, and such, can increase blood flow to the area, cause a lot of actually warmth in all the tissues and the joints and everything. It prepares it for movement. It sends blood flow to that area to say, you know what, I'm going to move. I'm ready. So let's go. So again, always warm up. That is one of the best things that you can do before doing an activity. Whether it is you're going out for a fast walk, a power walk, whether it is you're going for a jog, whether it is you are going to help someone move furniture, whether it is you're going for a sports activity, or maybe you're going to just play some frisbee with some friends out in the yard. It's so important to make sure that your muscles are prepared. So again, warm up. Walk around a little bit, move your arms a little bit in different directions, and your legs a little bit in different directions so that you can prepare your body for some activity. Secondly, if you are playing a sport and it requires protective equipment, please wear that protective equipment because it can prevent an injury, and it's so important. There's some people that'll say, you know what, nah, I don't need that. I don't need those guards for my legs or my joints. I don't need that helmet. I don't need those guards for my arms or my elbows. Nah, I don't need it. I'll be fine. We are not invincible. So it is important to make sure that you have that protective gear as well. So again, always warm up, and if it's an activity or sports related activity, then definitely wear the required sports gear as well. Thirdly, make sure you're nourished properly, right? You want to make sure that you're ready for sport activity. So nourish properly, the proper foods and nourishments that are important for performing activities, and making sure you drink plenty of water. You don't want to go out and do an activity or engage in a sport and you're dehydrated. That can cause a lot of complications within not only your limbs and your torso, but also in your brain, to your heart, to various areas of your organs. So you want to make sure you're nourished and you are hydrated and you're ready. Also, if you don't know how to do a particular activity, make sure you ask someone. You're a rich woman at this time. But that's one thing, is that a lot of people, I believe, think that it's going to take more time, and we want things done now, maybe even yesterday. But again, if you don't take care of yourself, then you could leave yourself open or predisposed to an injury. And guess what? It's something that can certainly change your life. We've all experienced injuries at some point in our life, and to varying degrees. Some very minor injuries and some more of a severe injury. And people who have had severe injuries will tell you, protect yourself. Take care of yourself. Make sure you try to do everything you can to prevent the injury, because when you have it, it changes your life like that. I remember when my father, he is older in age, I call him the wisdom one, and he lives in an area where they're prone to a lot of snow, okay? It is April already. It's enough with the snow that's up north. They just had another snowstorm this week up north. But anyway, that's why I live down here in North Carolina, and they still live up there in the north because they love it. But anyway, that's beside the point. Is my father, he typically has to go out, use a snow blower, and clean off the snow from the driveway, the walkways, so that he's not prone to injury. But at the same token, you have to be prepared, because number one, that snowblower is heavy. It's very heavy, so for you to maneuver that, and it's in the cold weather, and you may not have warmed up your muscles or your joints, you have to take my recommendations into mind. Definitely warm your muscles up before you go out there and utilize that snowblower. Also, make sure that you're well fed, well nourished, and you're prepared. Make sure you're not tired as well. If you're fatigued or you're worn out, your body is not going to function the way that it should. So make sure that you're well aware of what your physical status, your mental status, and that you are ready to perform an activity. Make sure you're equipped with the proper, whether it is protective gear or you're warm to stay warm. A snowsuit may be recommended at that time when you're going to clean out snow. But you are prepared and you know what it takes to maneuver that snowblower and the proper technique. There is a technique in, yes, maneuvering a snowblower while you're cleaning the snow and getting rid of the snow. And so it's important to employ that so that you are practicing injury prevention, and then also you're taking care of yourself, mindful of the best technique to do it as well. But one day, I'd say about a month ago, my father was out there and unfortunately he injured his back. And so luckily he was aware that, you know what, maybe this is not the right thing to do to continue doing the activity, but perhaps I need to stop. And then he consulted with me and I gave him some Great tips that he was able to follow. You've got to know your limitations. So again, when you're practicing injury prevention and all the various activities and sports-related activities that you're doing, know when you need to stop. Don't continue performing an activity and making it worse. Our bodies, our physical being, is connected to our brain. So our brain knows when injury occurs. There's a physiological process that takes place to notify us that, you know what, ouch, that hurts, and I need to stop, or very much so proceed with a lot of caution and maybe change what I'm doing, or just completely stop what I'm doing and pay attention to where I'm hurting. Because again, something minor, a little ouch, can be a big ouch and cause a lot of problems down the road. So let's just review an injury prevention. So we talked about number one is making sure that you warm up your body before you're performing any activities that may be foreign for you, maybe that you're not familiar with doing for a long time, or even if it's just a couple weeks. It's always best to warm your body up and make sure that's important when you're engaging in a little bit more than what you normally do on a day-to-day basis, just an everyday casual function. So warm your body up. Make sure that you've had proper rest. Make sure that you've fueled, you've provided your body proper nutrients, that you are hydrated. Make sure that you know whether it is you need to have protective gear or not. If you need to have protective gear, go ahead and throw it on. Put it on and protect yourself to the maximum way that you can. Also, make sure that you know the proper technique and handling either machinery, equipment, or various devices, or if you're doing a sports-related activity, make sure you know the proper techniques and performing that sport-related activity. When you are doing activity, take occasional rest breaks. That's very important. When you are training, make sure you do more of a moderate type of activity as opposed to a high throttle of activity, high burst of activity. That can cause a lot of problems and also be a predisposition for injuries. And then also make sure you stretch. A good flexibility and stretching routine is so important. We generally recommend to stretch after you perform a sports-related activity or any type of activity. So again, it's always important to warm up, then engage in that activity, so warm up, and then slowly ramp up your activity level and try to maintain that moderate level of activity while you're still taking breaks and rest periods between that time. And then after, have like a cool down where you're slowing down your activity. And then finally, stretch. Go ahead and stretch those muscles and those joints out. And if you don't know of a good stretch routine, you can certainly either ask a trainer, your coach, a physical therapist, someone who is well knowledgeable in stretching and how the body mechanically works. And that's really important. Stretching is very important. I would love to get $1 from every person that says, you know I need to stretch. I know I need to stretch, and I'm going to start. And then they don't start. Whether it's the technique in performing an activity or whether it is the best way to perform a sport. We want to work smarter and not harder. And there are various coordinated tasks that we could do to work smarter and not harder. Sometimes there are people that perform activities that may take 3 different tasks when it really could be done in one task. Or it could require just one body part, but yet they're using all of their body parts to perform the task. So inquire with someone who is knowledgeable in that particular area, who has done it before, or if you have a coach or a trainer or a physical therapist, it's important to ask, what is the best or the proper technique in performing that? We are energy conservationists as physical therapists, so we're going to show you the best way to perform an activity that is not going to recruit more muscles than necessary, as well as it's going to perform the task efficiently and prevent injury. So always ask. Always ask. People say to me, you know what, I don't want to ask because, people might think it's a dumb question, but, there's no dumb question, number one. And number two, if you don't know, it's better to find out for someone who is educated in that area or has experience in that area, so you can protect yourself as much as you can. And who knows, maybe tomorrow or down the road, someone may come and ask you, and you have the knowledge and the skill that you can share with someone else and prevent them from getting injury as well. So another recommendation in preventing injury is that you want to train when you're doing various activities. So let's talk about sports-related activities. You want to train moderately over a period of time. Studies have shown that when you have spikes of hard burst activity, that can be a precursor or cause an injury because your muscles aren't really prepared or they're not well ready for that particular activity. So it puts that increased stress on our body and can predispose us to injury. And also, you want to take occasional breaks, whether you're doing an activity of some sort, either in the yard work, or helping someone move, or doing a particular task that you haven't done in a while, whether it's playing pool, or whether it's playing disc golf, or lacrosse, or basketball, or football, or whatever activity it may be. You want to certainly take some breaks, right? You don't want to go out there full throttle, performing an activity, and end up injuring yourself. So take breaks. We've seen it, right? We've seen hockey players and soccer players. They go out for a while and play and engage in their sport, and then their coaches will bring them back in. Even if it's a short period of time, they'll bring them back in to take a break so their muscles can get a break, because they know, coaches know, that people are prone to injury when they, again, go full throttle with activity and don't take breaks. So that's really important. We just finished the ACC tournament, and that was fun. A lot of surprising wins, right? Both for the girls and the boys, the men's and the women's basketball. And that was exciting to see because, you see a lot of the players, the starting lineup, they play throughout the games, but yet their coaches will one by one bring them in, have them take, even if it's a quick break, and then they go ahead and allow them to go ahead and resume playing their sport. But again, what a great experience we had this past few weeks in enjoying March Madness and watching the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 and the Final Four, and then it came down to the final two teams that engaged, and guess what? The best team surely did win, as they always do every year. So definitely prepare yourself for when you're doing an activity or in a sport. The keys to having an injury preventative life are, again, taking care of yourself, doing the warm-ups, making sure you start out gradually, making sure you know the proper technique, you're exercising the best way you can, but smarter, not using every single muscle that you need to, but knowing the proper technique, taking breaks as you need to, rehydrate as you're going along with activities, that's very important, and then having your cool down and your stretch program. That is so important to do that when you're doing an activity, whether it's non-related to sports or whether it's related to sports. So those are some very important fundamentals in preventing injury. And those are some tips. Those are just some short tips that you can use and employ in your life when you are getting ready to do an activity or sports-related activity. Now, I also recommend, not only for an activity, a sports-related activity, but I do recommend that everyone should live a life of balance with having a good exercise routine. A routine that's going to focus on flexibility and stretching exercise routine. It's going to focus on strength training to keep our muscles strong and healthy. It's going to work on balance and coordination activities, and of course conditioning activities as well. If we keep our bodies balanced, it will perform at tip-top shape for us all the time. And then we can employ those injury prevention techniques just to make it even stronger, our bodies stronger and our bodies in gear so that it prevents injury or any problems. I attribute my success in being able to be an athlete, yet not being prone to injury or having any injuries because of what I do every single week. Such as I do engage in my sports-related activities, but I also make sure I'm in the gym 3 to 4 days a week, and I am strength training, I am conditioning training, I'm doing cardio, I'm working on balance and coordination activities, and of course flexibility and stretching routine, which is so important as well. We hope that you will take it to heart. We hope that you will also ingest it for your own being, but share it with other people. It's some important, simple tips that you can apply to your everyday life, and it can help you not only today, but years to come. So again, I thank you for joining the Wellness Show. Again, thank you for joining us today, and as always, we wish you well.